Welcome to Confident Coparenting, building a better life for you and your kids. I'm your host, Jeanne Ward. This show goes beyond co-parenting. It's about self-discovery and personal growth. Separation and divorce can shake your sense of identity, but my goal is to help you feel at ease in your own skin, both as a parent and in your new life. Through engaging conversations, I'll share tips, tools, and mindset shifts to help you build confidence, communicate effectively, and strengthen your self-identity. Let's dive in and see your situation in a new light, because when you thrive, so do your kids. A better future starts now. Hi, I'm Jeanne Ward, and you're listening to Confident Coparenting on Transformation Talk Radio. As you all know, confident co-parenting is a journey, and to get to that place of confidence takes personal growth. And on that journey of personal growth, there are a lot of supports and resources that can help you get there. One is internal family systems, or IFS, from a practitioner such as Dr. Ursula Lentine, who is with us today. So I want to tell a little bit more about Ursula and then welcome her. I have had the chance to work with Ursula for many years. As you all know, my divorce, I'm about 10 years into the separation and divorce. And in the beginning, I was a hot mess, and I was very blessed and had the opportunity to meet Ursula right in the beginning. And it transformed my journey and my ability to be the confident co-parent that I am. And so I'm really excited to be able to bring her here today to you all. And so I want to welcome Ursula. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Jeanne. It's been a pleasure to know you and work with you and just be in a place of celebration for your success and who you are as a ex-wife, as a mother, and as a woman in the world. Really respect you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, let's learn a little bit more about you, because I definitely want the audience to hear a little bit more about how you work. And one thing that is amazing to me is your intuitive ability and how you are able to bring that to the work that you do, whether it's internal family systems and or other services such as working with couples and youth. Can you tell us a little bit more about internal family systems, what your journey of getting to IFS and what you bring to the practice of IFS?
Sure. Internal Family Systems was created by Dr. Richard Schwartz, and he was working with some young ladies who were bulimic, and they kept saying, a part of me this, a part of me that, a part of me wants, a part of me says, a part of me feels. And that's how the exploration happened over 40 years ago. It's turned into a movement now. People are craving this because it's effective. It's very human to understand that we have aspects within ourselves. Everybody talks to themselves all day long.
Yep.
But no one mentions about all that talking. So you would think, like, why isn't everybody talking about all the talking? Because a lot of it is not kind. So we beat ourselves up, we judge ourselves, we pick on ourselves, and that's not our original design, in my opinion. Our original design is when a baby comes into this world and we all love and adore that child. And they can make a big mess, and it's like, it's okay, no big deal. It's not your fault. It's just a part of life. Clean it up, and we still love and adore you. Like, wouldn't that be nice if we were treated that way, and if we treated ourselves that way our whole life? But we've got all these programmings and these belief systems and these cultural identities and what it is to be a child, what it is to be a woman, what it is to be a man, all these expectations, lots of pressure, lots of failure, lots of judgment. So inside, we've got all of this going on, and we're inside listening. We're like, oh, really? Oh, that's the deal? Oh, okay, I should play it small. Oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, and we listen. And then we wonder, why aren't we happy and fulfilled? And why do we always feel less than and falling short and so on and so forth?
Yes.
That is the problem. And the solution is, guess what? It's not up there. That's where all the problem is. So the solution is in our heart, in our soul. Emotions are actually driving our behavior. So when we're messing up, when we're doing the wrong thing, when we can't make it work, it's not, we can't figure it out. We need to go into our heart feel into, where's this coming from? Why do I feel like this? How come I can't communicate? What's the matter with me? So when we can be compassionate with ourselves and dialogue with the understory, because this is the overstory, but the understory has the truth. So internal family systems is a model designed to get to the truth and the heart of the matter.
Absolutely. Thank you. That was such a great description. And one thing I want to do with our audience today is share some of my experiences. When I was right at the beginning of my separation and divorce process, I was a hot mess. I was, like I said, I was blessed to be introduced to Ursula, and it was through a center where my son and I would go to on Sunday mornings. And I would go into the sanctuary, and he would go into a room with the children. And Ursula ran that program. And that's what initially how I got introduced to you. And you were there. I love how you talk about the compassion for ourselves. What I learned from you is that you modeled it for me, and then I could learn it for myself. And I have this amazing experience that for me was the pivotal point of my journey and my change. And it was when you and I got to know each other, and you started sharing with me a little bit about IFS, and offered me the opportunity to work with you. And so I took you up on that. We scheduled a time to meet. Like I said, I was a hot mess, and the time that I had believed we were supposed to meet was not the time we were supposed to meet. And but in my mind, it was, and I was in such a space of chaos in my head, in my soul, in my heart, and just in my life, that there was a mix up. And when I got there, though, and we communicated, you were doing something else, but you gave me the compassion and the allowance to be, that hot mess and have the chaos. And not only was it the permission to be who I was, but you modeled to me so many things: the compassion, the love, as you explained to me some of the options that I could have in regards to, when we were actually supposed to meet, and or some other options that you gave me. What I also loved, and I learned later, was the the boundaries that you set and for yourself. And because I was so mad, I just wanted you to drop everything and still do what I wanted you to do, because I had made the time and I thought that's what we were supposed to be doing. So, what I loved was that with such love and compassion, you had those boundaries of, what was going on in your life, what you were doing at the time, and what you could offer me based on, my mistake. And I was in this space of where, I'm divorcing. I was in a marriage where I didn't feel I was getting what I needed or wanted. And then I was, in the situation of, I wanted to sit there and say, oh, it's all happening to me again, and point the finger. And there was something about how you worked with me and spoke to me that I knew this would be one of the best decisions in my life, and it was. And I stayed, and we worked together, and it helped get me on the road to be who I am today, who I'm very happy with. So your work is amazing, and you are amazing.
Thank you. But that's a very good point, because when we come to do this work, we're opening a door into the unknown. Like, we don't know what's going to happen, and we don't know what's wrong with us, and we don't know, right, the monsters that might be hiding in the closet that are going to pop out. Like, we don't know.
Yeah.
So you were in a state of vulnerability, and I was in a state of, peace and calm and clarity. And I could understand, like, okay, of course she's mad. Of course, hope, right? With a shaking hand, we're trying to open the door and be like,
exactly.
It's going to work. Right. So if I'm like, okay, I understand where you're at, I can create a super safe place for you to open that door and go into the rooms and the spaces. And because I've been there with all myself and all my clients and all my, like, I can talk to the demons. I can take the biggest monster and say, come here, we're going to have some tea. What do you want to tell me? So I have that kind of girth to supply, and you're describing a perfect example of the safety that I provide for people in their vulnerability to come in and face
Yeah.
who knows what.
Yeah. And it was scary. It was probably one of the scariest decisions that I actually went ahead with. And I'm so glad I did. I love what you were talking about, the monsters, because yeah, a lot of my parts are really ugly, and they would come up and I would even visualize them in this like very prickly, with lots of sharp edges type of visual. Um, and it brings me to another story that I want to share. I could say to the audience, like, think of an apple, picture an apple, right? And you might see a red apple, you might see a green apple, but you're visualizing an apple. Well, that was a lot of my experience through IFS, through the work that we were doing together, is I would visualize things. So my parts, I would get to visualize them, and they would look different. And some were going to be helpful in the session, and some weren't. And I love one thing Ursula does is, the ones that aren't, we get to let them go down to the spa and hang out and just relax. And then we work with the ones that are going to really help us grow. And what was amazing, I just had this one amazing experience too, where I was picturing a scene in my mind's eye, and I was laying down, and I was just trying to observe it. So I got very quiet. And Ursula, you said to me, "Oh, what are you experiencing now?" And I think all I could say was woods. Like I'm in woods. And you said, "Oh, yes." And you're laying down. And I said, "Yes." And then you described perfectly what I was seeing. It was a man dressed as a knight, and he was kneeling down and leaning towards me. And you described that, and I was so taken aback, and I was like, how? And that's when I really understood the depth of your intuitive nature, and how you bring that in to be so transformative and helpful to and with your clients. So I'd love for you to speak about that as well.
Yeah, thank you. Most people don't track all that. So I've done a ton of work. When I first got to this work, sometimes people ask, how did you come upon this? So in the same congregation that we belong to, Spiritual Living of Atlanta, which is a metaphysical movement, and I'm a reverend with all of that and whatever. I don't want a church, I just serve. Youth ministry is very important to me, and that's where I met your beautiful son. So one of the congregants were like, hey, I'm a therapist and I have this new model. It's really outside the box. I need a case study. I'm like, yeah, come on, let's do it. And we did 4 years of work in 1 year. And I turned around and I said, I have to do this for others. And my life, of course, changed through that work. And I just wanted to provide. I've studied so many other spiritual and therapeutic models that this is the strongest one. And I'm not a therapist. I do this through my metaphysical license. And I have a doctorate in consciousness studies, which is metaphysics, quantum physics, and spirituality intersection. So I come from a really multidimensional, super deep place. I can go anywhere, do past lives, everything is available to me. The intensity of my capacity is because I love. One of my foundational sayings is to know somebody is to love them. So even when you work with couples and they know the other person inside out, right? They know their mood, they know their thing, they know when they're lying, they know all of that. Yeah. And even though they hate them and they're disgusted by them, they can't help but love them underneath it all. And that's what brought two people together in the first place. So we often get attracted to what is familiar to us, because familiar is family. And whatever that looks like, family equals love. So if we were raised in a household of chaos, of abandonment, of trauma, and we go through life, we're like, oh, this seems so familiar to me. And then we pull that in, and we're like, yuck, oh my God.
Because it's familiar. It may not be healthy, but it's familiar.
And it still equals love. So that's when I can go into and see that knight kneeling against, it's because I have a frequency of love, and that's where my capacity comes in, that I can be in that scene with you. And it doesn't always have to be visual, because Dick Schwartz himself is not a visual person. So I have clients who can't visualize, and that's fine. We still move through the work. But the picture show is very entertaining and helpful for references.
Yeah, yes, it was for me, definitely. Um, and I'm going to take a quick pause, but when we get back into it, we're going to talk a little bit more about those experiences with the couples. Like you said, there's the underlying love, but there's a lot of ugly feelings on top. But I do want to pause and just let the audience know how they can contact you if they're interested in learning more about you and working with you.
Thank you. All my social media is my first and last name, including my website, UrsulaLentine.com. So UrsulaLentine. And I have a clarity call, so people can make an appointment, 20 minutes for free, and they can tell me what they're working on, and I'll let them know how I would approach that and how I work. And it's very comfortable, no obligation, just informative connection. So that's a easiest way to move into the work. And then my website is extensive. So sometimes people who are very controlling and curious, anxious, they want to read more. I gave them all kinds of information. They could spend a day reading my
Wonderful.
website, or they can just pick up the appointment and talk to me and we can get together.
Excellent. Excellent. And for anybody that is just tuning in, if you've missed part of this, or if you want to see another episode, you can always go to the Transformation Network YouTube channel and find this episode and others, or you can go to my site, which is confidentcoparenting.com, to the podcast tab and find it as well. So let's get back to talking about the work that you do. And you had mentioned about couples and the love that is underlying. I did get to experience that with you, with my ex, and it was right in the beginning. So there were a lot of bad feelings. I think we had maybe been in the same room since we separated once or twice before that, but it was with a lawyer in the room. And so when we came to you, I remember specifically you had to sit on a couch next to each other, which was hard. And you were able to get us to talk about some of our needs, what we wanted, what we didn't get, but it all came from us. There was no blaming or pointing fingers in that room at all. And it even led to us writing letters to each other that even to this day is helpful to me. Every once in a while I'll pull it up and I find it very calming, and it has that love in there that you talk about. So can you talk a little bit more about how you work with couples, especially when they are in such a negative space, like at the beginning of a separation or divorce?
Mm-hmm. So I work with in marriage, when I'm giving marriage ceremonies and the counseling before marriage, I talk about marriage is about when there's a problem, to put the problem on the other side of the table and the couple sit next to each other. Right? Because we always want to say, you're the problem. And if you just behave the way I said, we'd all get along better. And you, right?
Of course.
So, look at this. Oh, 3 fingers pointing back at me. Right? So that's
Yeah.
the deal. So that's not helpful. Okay. It's a tactic, but not a good strategy. So if the couple says, okay, we're in this together, we made a commitment along the way. It's our karma to be together. Here we are. Let's look at the problem over there and see how we can work together to solve this problem. And when there's a child involved, my interest is that child's well-being, because guess what? I work with primarily adults, and guess where we are? In their childhood. And why is all the problems in their childhood is because of their interactions with their parents primarily.
Yep.
Okay, so if the parents haven't done the work, if they're moving from generations of addiction and trauma and anxiety and depression and distraction and checking out and all of that stuff,
anger.
Yes, the child is carrying that. The child is formed by that relationship. So when I'm working with divorce and the parents are so like, I'm like, okay, great. I understand. You're working through your generational stuff. That other person's working through their generational stuff.
Yeah.
But let's make a peaceful way, because the child does not have to be impacted by the difficulty that the two adults are having, because that's what's happening. When there is a soft person in a family system, the softest person carries the unexpressed, unacknowledged emotions of the parent. So they're like, oh, what's happening with little Johnny? What's that? He's carrying your stuff. He's expressing your stuff. That tantrum, that running away from home, those bad grades. That's you, and he's transmuting it. I don't say it that way, but I can tell you right now, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
So when a child is upset, I look to the parents to say, come on, let's resolve some problems, because your child is carrying it, not understanding that that's where it's coming from. So when I say, come on, yes, we have a problem, let's look at the bigger picture and let's find a solution so we can manage the difficulties in peace and harmony. Because who wants to be sleepless at night, tossing and turning, being hateful, wondering how they got into the mess, how are they going to get out? Oh, this is so stressful. Yes, but let's find a surface. Let's find a foundation to operate from. And anything this person is going through is this person's responsibility. So when I work with couples, I work individual sessions. They get some clarity. We come together, like that meeting that you had, and sort out the trigger points and the almost like a ping pong. Like I say this and then you respond like this, and when you respond like this, it turns that person into this place, and then it just goes back and forth, so that we can track the systems, the continual chronic loops that couples get in, and then break the code so they're allowed to make different choices and do the healing on the trigger points of each person.
Yeah, absolutely. And the work I do is similar in the sense that I bring the couple, when I'm working with a couple or a divorced couple, that I bring them together first so we can all have a triad and talk about the situation, the goals, the problems. And then I take them separately to talk through their personal things, and that all comes back together. And and what I find and what I say all the time is, even one person can make the change. And when we're at our best, that is positively influencing our kids, and then our kids thrive too. So it's
I
what I
work
hear
in
you
the
saying.
cause space. Yeah, I work in the cause space, and you work in the actionables space. Right? So you say, okay, this is how we're going to work this out. This is how things are going to smooth out. And then I'm the behind the scenes saying, this is what's causing your behavior. Let's get rid of that so you don't have to struggle with your own behavior that's working against yourself, and solutions. And you're in the solution space saying, okay, let's make this compatible. Let's make this moving in the same direction. People usually want the same thing: peace and harmony, fairness, to be heard, to be seen, to be respected, to be acknowledged. So you can get them to move in that direction, and I can work on all the triggers behind the scenes.
Yeah. And one way I think you do that is with the observations, because that just brought up another story, a memory, which was, we were at the center with the kids. We were all leaving, and I had this experience where you had asked me to join there was an event you were having. You said, oh, please join us. And I had my son that day, and I made a comment to you to the effect of, oh, I can't because I have my son. And the way it came across was, I can't do something because of him. He's holding me back. And you were able to share that with me because, as you know, most little ears are always listening, and my kids' ears were always in tune of what I was saying. Whether he listened or not was a different story, but he did hear everything. And so it was so beneficial to me for you to share what you heard me say, and how it could have impacted him. And it just helped me then take that action of, how can I say things differently or think differently, so that I'm always supporting him, and that he knows that he's loved and that he is not in the way in it by any means.
Unfortunately, most children take responsibility for the divorce, and they pretty much are convinced. I don't know exactly how it happens, but the majority say it's my fault that they're getting a divorce. And nobody says that. Nobody talks to them. Nobody gives them that opportunity to say that thing. But they continually will say that and take the responsibility of that. And it's very disheartening to, the kids are with a backpack, the divorced child is with a backpack, because that's their whole little life. And they come from this house and that house, and they have double everything, but really their home is in their little backpack, because that's all they have. That's their mom's stuff, that's their dad's stuff, and this is their stuff. So to be, a vagabond, right? To be like, it's kind of like, yes, you have two homes, but you kind of feel homeless. And to create two realities. And then if there's tension within the couple, they kind of landed on the child, and the child has to carry that, child has to communicate, child has to navigate. So it's a lot. So the more work that the parents can do, the more healthy that child or children will become and develop.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And one last story as we're wrapping up, I wanted to share with the audience, the story that you know well, because I've shared with you. I'm so grateful. My son, Ethan, was about 7, 8 when we first started going to the center, and you worked with him when you were leading that group. And and he's 17 now. And he had an episode or a situation where he was helping another child doing artwork with the kids group. And he was serving and helping someone else, but to the deficit of him not able to finish. He wasn't able to finish his. And you explained to him how important service is, but how even more important it is to make sure we're taking care of ourselves so that we can always continue to serve. And that is a experience that has stuck with him. He just told the story recently at 17 years old, that was the most impactful thing for him. And so, everything you're saying, I can attest to it, how all of this has helped him grow into this strong, confident young man. And it was through a lot of the help and guidance that you gave us.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
So as we end, is there anything else that you'd like to share and or sum up for the audience?
I think the theme really is, there's a foundation of love, and in the middle of the chaos and the hurt, because that's really the biggest piece that makes us so angry. Under the anger is hurt, because of expectations and because of the denial of the promise of love. So, there is love. Two people are not going to be together if there wasn't love, and it might be distorted, and that's different. We don't understand it, but to find the love in this process is probably the most important thing for the well-being of each person. And then I would like to offer everybody to join me for the Twin Hearts meditation. I do it every Tuesday online or in person, where we bless the planet with loving kindness. It's chronic healing. And doing that simple meditation will help increase the love and self-compassion and calmness and clarity for everybody, for all reasons.
Excellent. Thank you. And tell us your website again so they know where to find all of that information.
UrsulaLentine.com.
Fantastic. Thank you. And everyone can also find more information on this episode and others at transformationtalkradio.com. And you can also go to my website, confidentcoparenting.com, and you can go to the podcast tab to find out more about episodes and or the About page to find out more about me. Thank you so much for joining us today and for learning about Dr. Ursula Lentine and her work in internal family systems, or IFS. And I can't wait to see you for the next episode. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And congratulations to do this podcast. It's very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being with us. You've been listening to Confident Coparenting. Join me, Jeanne Ward, every second Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio for more insights and practical strategies to support your co-parenting journey. Let's keep the conversation going. Connect with me on social media, subscribe to the podcast, and share it with those who could benefit. And if you or someone you know needs support, coaching can make all the difference. Visit confidentcoparenting.com to learn more. See you next time.